Good morning students and welcome back. So as you know that we are learning about friction. Yesterday we learnt about the factors that affect the friction, and today let us learn about the types of friction, children. As you can see that friction is mainly of two types, children. One is static friction and another one is kinetic friction. You can understand by the name itself that static means this is the kind of friction which is offered when the object is not in motion. That means when it is stationary or static. Did you understand? Now kinetic, you would have got it by now. Kinetic means it is nothing but the friction which is offered when the body is in motion. Kinetic means motion, to move, right? So this static friction occurs when a body is in rest and when force is applied but it is not able to move that object. This happens because the interlocking, as I told you in my very first class when I gave introduction about friction, the interlocking is maximum in this case, children, because it is in rest, and you can see that the normal forces, the weight is acting on the ground and both the surfaces are in contact and both the interlockings also are maximum here. So they have like kind of stuck. So it requires more force actually to move that object. So this static friction mainly occurs when a body is not moving and when force is applied, but that force is not enough to move that object. We require a greater force to move that object. And the static friction will not be there once the object starts to move. Okay. So this is about static friction, and when compared to the kinetic friction, it is more, children, because the interlocking is more. So once the object starts moving, then the interlockings give way, right? So you can see now kinetic friction is actually again divided into two types. Yesterday we saw about it. We learnt about it, right? Sliding friction and rolling friction. So you can understand sliding, it's in the name itself. So when two surfaces are just made to slide over each other, move over each other, then that is nothing but called as sliding friction. So yesterday we saw that book sliding, isn't it? And rolling friction, this is nothing but a body is made to roll over. So you can see a very heavy things like a cylinder or anything, we can't lift that heavy cylinder. So what do? We roll it. So when we are rolling it, what is happening? The friction is greatly reduced, and that's why it's called as rolling friction. So here again two types. A body itself can roll, or you can make something, you can put something in between, like we did in our yesterday's class. We put some pens between the table and the book, right? So it made the book move faster, right? So rolling can be the object itself can roll, or we can have something intermediary such that the object rolls over that. So one good examples are all the heavy vehicles and all, children. How are they able to move faster? Because they have wheels which are rolling on the road. I ask you to arrange these three types of friction, these three frictions, according to the ascending order of magnitude. That means you have to arrange in ascending order of the amount of friction that they offer. So in which case is the friction greater? Okay. So in ascending order, if you say, first you have to start with the friction which offers very little amount of friction, the type which offers very little opposing force. So that is nothing but rolling friction. Rolling friction is the one which is offering very less or least amount of opposing force. So this comes first. And then comes the sliding friction, children. When compared to the static, sliding friction offers lesser friction. So this is lesser than sliding friction, and the sliding friction is again lesser than static friction. Okay, children? So when you are asked to arrange these frictions, sometimes it is asked in the exams also. So arrange the following in the ascending or descending order of amount of friction that they offer. Then you need to look into this in this way. So rolling offers the least friction and static friction offers the greatest amount of magnitude of friction. You have got some idea about the friction, about the types of friction, and about the nature of factors that affect friction and all that. Now, it should be very easy for you to understand what you have to do in order to increase the friction and in order to reduce the friction. So, you know that factors affecting friction we have seen yesterday, right? So, if the mass is more, the friction will be more, I said. So, in order to increase the friction, what you need to do? Should you decrease the mass or increase the mass? Yes, you have to increase the mass in order to increase the friction. And in order to reduce the friction, what you need to do? You have to decrease the weight or nothing but the mass of the object, right? In that way, I want you to simply jot down some points, write down some points in your own, out of your own understanding of the topic, how to increase and how to reduce the friction. Because in some cases we have to increase the friction, and in some cases we have to reduce the friction. Okay. So apart from this, I also want you all to just think over where the friction needs to be reduced and where the friction needs to be increased. If you turn around and if you just see things around you, you will get so many examples where you need to increase the friction and where you need to reduce the friction. So just make a note of all these things. Okay, try out.